Hawgs and Vols on Saturday in a big-time matchup in Fayetteville, Arkansas, looking for that early season signature win. Sam Pitman and company going to have things fired up on Saturday night. Helping us break it all down, good friend of mine, does a fantastic job covering all things Arkansas, John Nabors of Inside Arkansas and the host of Locked on Hawgs. John, what's going on, man? Appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, just dealing with a team that constantly loses one possession games. It's great. It's been going problem for a long time, so it's so much fun. But I appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, John, first things first, let folks know, by the way, I know the Inside Arkansas venture is somewhat new still. So you've been all over the place, man. I mean, you're obviously a staple in the Arkansas media space, if you will. But let folks know, in case they're not familiar, the new venture, because I know obviously over the last calendar year or so, you guys have kind of bounced around with some of the different stuff you're doing.
Yeah, so it's called Inside Arkansas, which you can find on all social media platforms as well as on YouTube. We do a live stream show, Inside Arkansas Live, every day. It's starting at noon. And we do a lot of video content there. We have a website where we have all the written content up to date there too at insidearkansas.com that you check out as well. So just kind of having a stranglehold on the digital media space when it comes to the interactions and the content that we provide. So just type in Inside Arkansas, man. You'll find out everything about us pretty quickly.
Yeah, and you guys and your team, John, doing a great job. Let's dive into the Hawgs, obviously, because you mentioned the one-possession games, the one-score games, and I was able to get a look at Arkansas a few weeks ago down in Auburn, which was a really, really big win, obviously, going on the road. Auburn's having their own struggles, but anytime you get a road win like that in the SEC, it's a big deal. But, you mentioned the losses, double overtime to Oklahoma State, the really disappointing game in Arlington, which I feel like we say that every single year for the Hawgs. What do you make of this ball club to this point? 3-2 overall, 1-1 in conference play. I mean, if I'd have told you Arkansas would be 3-2 at this point, I don't think Arkansas fans would have been thrilled, but it's not like worst case scenario. I mean, what's the feel on this team right now, John, and what they are from your perspective?
I mean, unfortunately, it's basically the bare minimum of what Arkansas fans were expecting through 5 games. Most people were hopeful that maybe they could find a way to be 4-1 heading into this Tennessee game. And honestly, Arkansas should be. And you could even make an argument for being 5-0. They could be undefeated right now. But that's kind of been the MO of Razorback football, and especially in the past year and a half, 2 years under Sam Pittman. They just continue to find ways to just suck a little less than the other team, is how I put it. They make mistakes. If they have a good defensive game, they have a bad offensive game. If they have a good offensive game, they have a bad defensive game. If the other team doesn't turn the ball over, they do. And if they do turn it over, it's in the most inopportune moments. I hate using like cursed, but that's how Razorback fans feel. It just doesn't make sense. They don't know why this team, who has shown that they can compete, that they can go up with some of the best teams and have done it for the past 2 years, but for whatever reason, they just cannot finish a game and cannot find a way to get over the hump.
Is it one of those things, John, that you think, again, we're still pretty early on in the season, a little bit over a third of the way, which is crazy. The college football season just flies by. But as we enter the month of October, is there anything you feel like can be done to change that, almost mid-season? Is it something where it's just, hey, this is kind of you are who you are, and this is the staple of the Sam Pittman era? Or, is there hope that this team can find more consistency? Because, John, I feel that too, man. Like watching them in person, it's like you see the potential, but it's like for every 2 steps forward, they take 3 steps back. Like every time they're about to do something really good or break through, they shoot themselves in the foot. So it makes them a dangerous team, John. I think Arkansas is a dangerous team, but they're just dangerously inconsistent. Like, is there anything you think can be done at this point in the season to fix that essentially?
I mean, it's hard to say yes to that, because it would be one thing if it was out of character. It'd be one thing if this was a new thing. But again, this is kind of similar to what it was last year, even. I mean, Arkansas started at the beginning of the year. They lost quite a few games, but people may not remember this. Arkansas, they started the year in the 3rd game of the year. They lost to BYU at home by a touchdown. But then after that, they went on the road to LSU and lost by a field goal. They went on the road to Ole Miss and lost by a touchdown. They went on the road to Bama, lost by a field goal. They were right there. They were in those one-possession games. And Sam Pittman right now has lost 10 of his last 11 games in one-possession games. And so it's just, it would be different and maybe have a different amount of confidence if this was new or if this was different, but it's not. So if it happened all the time last year and you're seeing similar things happen this year, then how, as a Razorback fan, do you expect it to get fixed or to be better? Because the more it goes on, people start believing, hey, this isn't something that you can just work through. This is something that just they are. This is their identity. They are who they are. And I feel like that's how Hog fans believe it. And especially since now you got, I think, 4 of your final, or I guess not at this point, you got 5 of your final 7 games in the regular season at home in Fayetteville. But your worst performances in the past 2 years have been in Fayetteville. So just there's nothing that none of it makes sense. None of it, every time I try to point to something that could be something that you could have some confidence in, it just gets shot down because there's always a but to it. So yeah, right now I just don't see anything logically that you can point to and say, this is why it's going to get fixed. This is why it's going to get better. Until they actually do it on the field, I just don't believe it.
And to your point, John, even the one game this year played in Fayetteville, which was against UAB, was a sluggish 37-27 win. So, I mean, even to your point, in a game like that, it wasn't the feel-good win that it was supposed to be. Sticking with the Hogs and what you've seen at this point really quickly, John, we talk about inconsistencies. I think you could argue it starts at the quarterback position with Taylen Green. He's had his moments of brilliance. He's had his moments of you just kind of throw your hands up and you don't really know what you just witnessed. Jaquindon Jackson, I think, has been really, really good. I think still Arkansas has got one of the more underrated wide receiver rooms. Then defensively, again, I saw them in person against Auburn. Granted, it's Peyton Thorne. I get it. But, I liked what I saw for the most part from Travis Williams' defense. Top takeaways from the offensive and defensive side, John, to this point, and reasons for optimism, reasons for concern with both those sides moving forward.
Well, I mean, offense, Jaquindon Jackson, to me, is the best running back in the SEC. I know he still leads it. And he didn't have a great game this past weekend, but it wasn't because of him. It's because A&M did a great job of just working and out-physicaling Arkansas's offensive line. He couldn't get really any holes. Jaquindon Jackson's the best player on the team, you could even make an argument for. I mean, he's got size, speed, he's got strength. He'll run you over and look really good doing it and not think twice. And also Taylen Green, when he's ran, has been really good. His inaccuracies has been a problem. He's completing about 50%, which is not good in the SEC. But he's got only 5 touchdowns passing and 5 interceptions. So it's about the ground game to me. Arkansas's ground game has been better than what it was a year ago for sure. And I think it's their best part of it, but they just can't get away from it. But also the problem is that if you go up against a team that knows how to stop you, like what A&M was able to do, you're done for. Then suddenly you got Taylen Green, which I like Taylen Green, but this is a big deal for him being in the SEC, and he gets rattled. And he got rattled really easily against A&M because he was running for his life so much, and it really impacted the game. So it really comes down to if they can ever go up and go into a game to where they get Jaquindon Jackson going effectively, that's how you do it. Yeah, you got to get him going effectively and get the rushing attack going effectively, and that way it opens it up a little bit more for Taylen Green. The defense on the other side of it, though, it's crazy because Arkansas last year had 5 of their 6 linebackers leave the team, or 6 linebackers left the team, and 5 of them are still playing college football. They all transferred out. And the players that you got in didn't really move the needle. You got Xavier Sori, a transfer from Georgia, who was a former 5-star, but it was like, okay, that's one, but who else? And surprisingly, the linebacker position has actually been really good for Arkansas. A lot better than anyone expected. Maybe the disappointment part of it has been the D-line. Landon Jackson, up until Texas A&M was the first time he actually got into the backfield, got a couple sacks in that one, but preseason All-SEC player was doing nothing in the first 4 games. And so that was a little bit surprising. The secondary's been banged up too. Jalen Braxton, the best defensive back Arkansas hasn't played the past 2 games. Hudson Clark, an experienced leader back there, he hasn't played the last 2 games. I think Braxton will be available this weekend. Hudson Clark will see. But overall, the defense has been good enough. I mean, if you hold an SEC opponent like they did with A&M to 21 points, you should win that game. No question about it. But they didn't. So it's not the defense is like just a level of elite and best in the SEC, but they're doing their job and they're doing enough to win games. It's the offense that really has to hold up their end of the bargain in these games.
John, the Tennessee Volunteers come to town, a night game there in Fayetteville, expecting a packed house, obviously a raucous environment. What have you seen from Tennessee to this point? Obviously, I think we all understand the challenge. Tennessee nearly a 2-touchdown favorite. But what have you seen from the Vols that maybe, again, gives you some concern? And do you think maybe there's some areas where Arkansas, can hit some explosives and make this thing kind of an interesting game, or maybe have a chance to win this thing in the fourth quarter?
Well, I was just looking at the game notes for this that they release, and they give the rankings of all the different categories for offense, defense, and everything. And, it's really fun to see scoring offense for Tennessee's number one, scoring defense for Tennessee's number one. Total offense is number two in the country, number one total defense, number four rushing offense, number two rushing defense, number four pass. I mean, every single thing. That's not SEC rankings, that's nationally. So every single thing that matters, generally speaking, they're good at. I know that they're apparently really bad at passing offense, only 33rd in the country, but it's a really great team that Arkansas is going to be facing. And I wasn't sure about Tennessee and how good they were going to be, but after seeing the few games that they have played in, they look legit. I think Arkansas, what I can say is Arkansas is a better team than Oklahoma. I'm not saying that, but I think there may be some similarities there. And Tennessee, I know the final score may not say it, but I think Tennessee worked over Oklahoma. Oklahoma maybe got some garbage stuff in the end, but coming off of a bye, especially with Tennessee, I don't really know what to expect here for Arkansas and how you're going to stop them. The only thing that I can say for Arkansas is they have to get off to a good start, which I know is cliche to say, but if Arkansas gets down 14-0 early in this game, it's over. Like they're gonna get smashed. And Tennessee is way too good of a team to where they're not gonna break late in the game. They're not going to fall flat on their face. They're not going to choke the game away. They're too well coached. They got too much talent, and they got too good of a system. And so if Arkansas is going to have a chance in this game, it's as simple as what it is in pretty much every game. Don't turn the ball over, force turnovers against Tennessee, and do not let it get away early. Because the second you let it get away early, I don't think Arkansas's mental toughness is strong enough to try to overcome that and come back from it.
Would you lean on a guy like a Jaquindon Jackson as a key player in this one, getting the running game going? I mean, it feels like putting the entire game on Taylen Green is probably not going to be your best bet. Or maybe even utilizing his legs, like you said. I mean, I thought the best offense, again, when I saw him in person, was Taylen Green getting outside of the pocket, making something out of improvising, making something out of nothing, getting outside the pocket, throwing the football down the field and trying to hit some explosives. I mean, it feels like, and I think, John, you can expand on this. The one thing I see for Arkansas in this game is that I don't know that Tennessee's secondary has truly been tested yet. And again, the front seven has masked any kind of deficiencies they may even have in the back end at this point. But do you feel like potentially, if the offensive line can hold up enough, or if Green can work outside of the pocket and deliver some throws downfield, it feels like Arkansas has got some weapons that can win some one-on-ones and maybe create some explosives. And like you said, maybe help get off to that fast start and get Fayetteville buzzing a little bit and have Arkansas in the game.
I mean, yeah, they're capable of it, but if it doesn't matter if your quarterback's rattled, if your quarterback's running for his life, because that's what Taylen Green's kind of been going through here recently. And against A&M, Sam Pittman even said as much, that in his press conference. I don't know if he should have said it, but he said that Texas A&M gave him fits. He got rattled, and even made the comment of he's having to gain the trust of his offensive line back. And so that's not something you want to hear. And that's what concerns me, is that if he comes out and he's still rattled, or if he's still having to run for his life, he's just not good enough to overcome that. Arkansas is not good enough to overcome that. And once that starts breaking down, then the entire offense is going to start breaking down. So to me, it's about Jaquindon Jackson, as you mentioned. If Jaquindon Jackson has a good game, I think Arkansas will be close. If Jaquindon Jackson has a great game, when I say great game, like 150 yards plus and a couple touchdowns, I think Arkansas is in a position to even win the game. But the problem is that that's it. That's the only thing that I could even point to, because I just don't see Taylen Green, as much as I like the guy, I don't see Taylen Green struggling against A&M, struggling against UAB, struggling against Auburn even. But then against Tennessee, he comes out and throws for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like, I just don't see that happening. So it has to be on the ground. It has to be establishing that, keeping the ball out of the hands of the Tennessee offense, and just, even if you want to get touchdowns every possession, but even if you just get field goals, just get points, have no 3-and-outs, no wasted possessions, because the more often that you have Tennessee with the ball in their hands, the more they're going to make you pay, and the quicker that this will get out of hand. So they got to be able to establish the run, establish the time of possession, and just keep the ball away from them and not make the mental mistakes that they did against Texas A&M.
John, before we get you out of here, and again, appreciate you being gracious with your time, I've got to ask, you mentioned it feels like it's more of the same when it comes to the Hawgs, and you mentioned Sam Pittman's record in these one-possession games, which is just a stat that is almost hard to believe. At this point in the season, entering October, Does it feel like, I mean, is there a potential to, I mean, obviously if you were to win a game like this against a top 5 Tennessee team, the shot in the arm, that would be, something. But at this point right now, has anything changed on Sam Pitman, or does it feel like the inevitable is around the corner?
Well, that's kind of what the next few games are going to show, because it's 50-50 right now, to be honest. Like it is 50-50. And that's what's unfortunate because, again, it's one thing if you lose to high. I'm going to be honest. Texas A&M's not a good football team. They're not. Oklahoma State's not a good football team. They're not. And Arkansas lost to them when they had leads in the second half and by one possession. And in both of those games, Arkansas had an opportunity to win the game in the end, and they didn't. So when it comes down to it, I look at it as, okay, so you're showing you have the talent to be in these games. You're showing you have the talent. You're showing that you're capable of being competitive, but you're losing one possession games. So who does that fall on? Well, on almost every case, that's head coach. That's coaching, because you have to be able to overcome that. So for me, Sam Pittman's, it's in a 50-50 deal. And I don't think even if he loses this weekend, it means, he's fired, because it's Tennessee. I mean, they're a top 5 team in the country. But if you get the doors blown off of you at home, if you go out there and you look lackadaisical and Tennessee beats you 50-14 or something crazy like that, it's over. Because I just don't see, because Arkansas has a bye week, but then they welcome LSU to town the next time. And it doesn't get any easier. Then after that, they play Ole Miss. And after that, they play Mississippi State, which on the road, we'll see. But then they got Texas. I mean, they just have so many big-time games in front of them. That's why these games against Oklahoma State and Auburn and Texas A&M were so important, because that's the easy part of your schedule. And, you mentioned Arkansas not being tested, or Tennessee not maybe being tested going up against a secondary or whatever. But Arkansas and the quarterbacks they faced, I mean, they faced a backup quarterback last week in A&M. They faced a backup quarterback in Auburn. The starting quarterback that did good against Oklahoma State's already been benched. So Arkansas has not faced a good quarterback. And that's what concerns me. So the point is, if Arkansas is competitive, if they're out there, and it's not moral victories, but if they're competitive and show fight and do some good things, Sam Pittman lives to fight another day, and we'll see what the second half of the season holds. But if they go out there and they get destroyed from beginning to end, then the inevitable is here, and it's just a matter of time for Sam Pittman.
John Nabors, Inside Arkansas, host of Locked on Hawgs. John, again, you do a fantastic job. One more time, let folks know, in case they've been living under a rock somehow and they're fans of the Hawgs, let folks know where they can check out all your great work and find you on social media also.
Yeah, you can find us at InsideArkansas.com. You can follow our YouTube page as well as our social media at Inside Arkansas. You can also follow the Locked on Razorbacks podcast, which is the #1 Razorback podcast in the world. At least that's what I'm told. So you can follow it on there through wherever podcasts are found, as well as on YouTube. And you can also follow me on social media at John Nabors Show. So essentially, if you can't find me, that's a you problem, because I'm everywhere here in Arkansas. So there you have it.
Indeed. John, appreciate you taking the time, and it's always a pleasure, and looking forward to getting to Fayetteville this weekend.
Appreciate it, man. Safe travels.